Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and you can find more about the work that happens all over the world by going to ipaworld.org. As part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can be a friend on our Facebook page, and you can link to our Instagram account by going to IPAUSA.org. And up in that top right-hand corner are all the links to each of those platforms. Magically, if you subscribe, every Monday, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm the president of IPA USA. And joining me on the porch today is Heather Von Bank. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I'm really happy to be here.
We're so happy you're here. So Dr. Heather Von Bank is a professor of family and consumer science at Minnesota State University at the Mankato branch. Is that correct?
That's right.
She teaches courses on parenting education and the role of play in child development. And in 2013, Dr. Van Bank co-authored her first book, The Power of Playful Learning, the Green Edition. Her most recent publication is an online textbook titled Lifespan Development, Telling the Human Story. Ooh, I got to get that. And in March, I'm so jealous. In March of 2022, she was a TedX speaker and had the chance to talk about the importance of risky play. So today, that must have been the most amazing experience. I watch TEDx's all the time. So the title today that Heather's going to talk to us about is Talking to Parents About Letting Kids Take Risks.
Yeah.
So, whoa, what an important topic. How can we help parents become more comfortable letting their children take risks? And I want to make sure. Yes, perfect. Go.
Go. Yeah, I did the TED Talk almost a year ago now. It was delayed from 2020 to basically last year. And it was single-handedly the most exciting, scary, risky thing I've ever done, both personally and professionally. It was, putting yourself out there online and just being really vulnerable and memorizing a speech and saying all the important things of your life's work. It was amazing. And I still
15 minutes, right? 15 or 20 minutes.
Yep. Less than 15.
That.
It was. Well, like you said, Deborah, we're both professors, so I'm familiar with talking, right? Like I'm cool, I'm good with talking, but actually keeping myself to a script and also a time limit was probably the biggest challenge. And I really wanting to say what I wanted to say in the most concise and clear way, right? Like you can go off on lots of tangents when you've got 45 minutes, but when you want to make your points really, just stand out, you really have to be thoughtful about what you say and how you say it. So yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to go on and watch it because now I'm really intrigued and excited.
Thanks.
All right. So how can we get parents to understand the importance of risk in their child's daily experience?
Well, so I don't usually drop my kids off at school. I promise this will come back to risk. And this morning in southern Minnesota, there was an ice storm and the bus could not even make it up our gravel road. So I drove the kids in. It was fine for cars, just not buses. And I was watching parents as they drop their kids off. And there's lots of places where you can drop them off along the road in front of the school, right? You can drive right up to the front door and make sure they get out right there. You can maybe go down further. And I kept thinking, why don't we just drop them off here? They have to walk a little further. And it was raining, but that might be the only time they're outside today because of the playground, right? So I just started thinking about how we have changed our view on the role of children in society. Children today are very precious. Like my children are very precious to me, but it's also important for them to be challenged on a daily basis and walk in the rain, right? They're gonna dry off, they're gonna be okay. And I think it really is that mindset of just allowing kids the chance to be challenged and all the opportunities in a day that we have to let kids take risk, but just live a life that isn't coated in bubble wrap. And that's really what my TED Talk was about. It was just sort of reframing the ways that we talk to our children when they are doing something that makes us a little nervous, right? And how, when we think back on our own childhood, how important that was for us to put ourselves out there, whether it was, swinging your swing as high as you can and making the the swing set kind of bobble off its feet, right?
And jumping, remember? We would just leap off that swing.
Yeah.
And it was so exhilarating and so much fun.
So fun. And just the thrill that you get from accomplishing it and pushing yourself to doing it. Even small children love to do the Superman on a swing. And even that can sometimes make parents nervous. The swing can come back. It could do lots of things. It can hit kids in the face. And I've gotten a face full of swing before too. I think it's just reframing the way that we think about kids. I know that this is not a new thing, but I like to think about it as missed opportunities, right? Like, what are the things that we're literally shielding ourselves from children experiencing that can help them to be just regular, full human people experiencing a range of emotion and experiences.
Well, and I think you have stated a couple of things that I want to go back and just reflect on. So the first one is stop wrapping them in bubble wrap, right? We grew up fine, being very adventurous and climbing trees and jumping off of swings and hanging upside down on the monkey bars. And what we learned is how to interpret whether or not we'd gone too high or where our body was in space, or how we need to figure out how to get down or get back up or try something different. And I think we rob children of those opportunities because of our own innate fears, right? I think I think we have to really go deep inside and ask ourselves, am I interfering with a child's development because of me? Instead of asking them, hey, how you feeling? You okay? And
right.
Instead of, don't do that, get down, you're too high, and then I think we breed that fear into them and then they don't risk.
Yeah. I think you said really, like, just figuring it out, right? Like, I think we want to, as parents and adults, as educators, we want to be seen as being effective and having a role in children's lives. And by doing that, we've actually hindered the kids to figuring out the things. They don't get a chance to figure it out on their own, right? And you're absolutely right. Reframing the way that we say things, right? Like, kids who have a secure attachment to their parents and to their teachers are gonna look back, right? They're gonna be like, is this okay? And you give them a smile. And if you're a little bit nervous, you're like,
what do you think?
And those visual cues tell our kids so much about what's fearful for us and what they're willing to experience and do, right? So all those things become a pathway for kids figuring out, what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? And it can create a lot of that fear, right? And we've read, there's so many awesome papers. Ellen Sandstetter out in Norway, I think. She's written so many brilliant pieces about just how risky play provides an antiphobic effect, right? The more we do those things, the better it gives us a chance to figure out things and how we can do things differently. And I don't even want to say better, just different, right? And figure out how we can do this in a way that's not going to, break our neck. And I'm talking about physical things, but certainly, social relationships certainly have risk to it too. And kids aren't willing to put themselves out there. And we kind of shield our kids away maybe from social situations too, that might make them a little nervous. If a friend isn't going to be at the park, we're not going to go. Or if a friend, those are also things that we can model as parents and say, you know what? I'm going to yoga tonight and I don't know anyone, and I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to see what happens, right? It's the ways that we can model those things for our kids and then support them along the way. And I know that, social anxiety and fear is a real thing for kids today too. And I don't take that lightly. I just know that there are things that we can do as parents to model that and support them along the way, instead of shielding them from chances for them to do something different and maybe even, love
Take
it.
a risk, right? Try something new, take a risk.
Yeah.
And I think we've created this cycle of anxiety and depression and fear, right? Because, I mean, really, I had 2 biological children and 1 adopted child. And I remember, Rod and Sean would come home with bruises up and down their shins, right? They were boys, they were on their bikes, they were falling, they were jumping, they were doing things, but they learned from, maybe you shouldn't do the ramp on your bike. Or you should think about what you're going to do if you're airborne and you don't know when you're coming down, right? So I think we inhibit that risk taking because of that innate fear that we have. Nobody wants their child to be hurt. But what I worry about is children are going to be hurt more seriously if we don't allow them to know where their body is in space and
absolutely.
How to navigate everything. So yeah, I think this is people will judge you as a parent if you let your children hang upside down on the monkey bars. Listen, you got to get out of that space because and you can say, one of the Porch Play Chat folks, Angie, is always talking about when she takes her kids to the park, other parents look at her aghast. They're like, oh my God, why aren't you stopping them? Why are you letting them do that? And she looks at them and says, if you stop it, you're harming their development. And so we have to get out of ourselves and really be in tune with whose fear is it.
We have to
my child from getting my fear, right, of climbing a tree too far and not knowing how to get down, right?
We have to own that fear, and if it's our fear, we're so willing to put it on the kid as that's your fear too, right? Like you're also afraid of this, and that's why I encourage parents to really think about themselves when they're at the playground as an observer, as a researcher, right? Like just watch, you are Jane Goodall, right? watching gorilla, right? Like you just have to kind of put yourself outside of that element and just observe, just watch. And if there's something that makes you nervous, you're nervous about the thing, you could certainly say something like, hey, Rod, watch out for that kid next to you has got a really long stick, make sure your body's out of the way. Or, hey, have you noticed that there's a really sharp overlook, whatever it is. We have to recognize what is it that we're fearful of, and then use that to at least make kids aware of the environment, right?
Yes.
There's things that we can do and still not inhibit their play. But if there's something that we're worried about, it's it's more harmful sometimes to say something than not, because most likely it's going to be fine. They're gonna figure it out. And in fact, they probably have their own internal monologue going on at that moment
Yeah.
that
And
they're
we hope
focusing
so.
on, right?
Yes, if they've had the opportunity to develop it, just like with every piece of development, you have to have opportunities
Mhm,
to practice that internal monitoring
mhm,
of, oh, I climbed too high on this tree. I think I'm going to find my way back down.
mhm,
Right. And I'm going to
mhm,
do first, I'm going to do my left foot, then I'm going to do my
mhm.
right foot, and
Yep.
then I'm going to do my left foot. And those are key life skills
Mhm,
about being able to manage
mhm.
risk, right? But more importantly, recognize hazards
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Hazards.
difference
Absolutely. Mhm,
between them, right?
mhm,
That you don't have to be fearful. It's really interesting. I have stepchildren who are much younger than my children.
mm,
And when they were 13, 14, I met them when they were 14 and 14 and 16. And what was interesting is they were so into um, texting and chatting that when they had to actually go in and talk to someone, they were fearful of it.
mhm,
And so Richie had a pen pal that was going to come for a visit in
mm,
Spain. And
mm,
so they were doing this exchange, right?
mm,
As we
mm,
had exchange students. And so Richie said, I need to send a letter
mhm,
to Spain, but I don't know how to do it. And I said, well, you need to go to the post office and
mhm,
ask. And she
mhm.
said, look,
Talk
I
to a stranger.
I just, what? Yeah, you need to talk to someone. Well, can't you figure it out for me? No, but I'll go with you
Mhm,
when you talk to someone.
mhm,
And so that's what I did. And what is so hysterical is that Richie now talks on the phone to people all the time. She wouldn't even call them. She wanted to text them, right?
mhm.
But now her position, her job, her profession is talking to people on the phone all day.
Right.
And so it it was a growth experience talking to a real person
Mhm.
instead of texting, and learning how to ask the question you want and get the answer you need, and how to probe if you didn't get the answer you need.
Totally.
All of those were key learning skills that
Absolutely.
are life skills, right?
Mhm.
That they have to be able to do. So it
Yeah.
was,
Well, and I think that brings to us to our commonality as being professors, right? So we work with a lot of young adults who have had a variety of playful or maybe not so playful opportunities to learn about risk.
mhm,
So a lot of my college students, they not that I don't know how I feel about this yet. A lot of my college students communicate with their parents regularly throughout the day in text messages. And
okay.
I as the mother of two young children, I hope that they want to talk to me when they're young adults. Absolutely. I hope they, I want them to be able to communicate with me, but I also want them to know who to go to for answers, right? Like, I don't want them to be asking me about homework in college. I want them to be able to go to their professors when they're
Mhm.
in college. I want them to be able to go to their employers such that I'm not calling their employer about a situation, right? So much of these deprived play experiences or risky play doesn't allow kids to practice putting themselves out there. And
Mhm.
they're so used to parents doing the thing. And that's where we get to places where kids have a sense of dread about reaching out to their landlord, or
Mhm.
talking to their TA if they're falling behind in school. It really is about kids becoming adults who can manage themselves, and
Mhm.
that is risky.
It is.
You have
It
to
most
ask
certainly
for
is.
help.
But they have to have practice, right?
Yes.
And they have to be able to make independent choices. So not only is it parents that I think are creating this sort of phenomenon that we're
Mhm,
seeing, I think it's schools where, get out your math book, put that math book away. Now you're
mhm,
going to go to specials.
mhm,
Raise your hand if you have to go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
You're going to eat when I say you need to eat. You're going to, all of those. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just absolutely crazy that you are, that they don't feel comfortable doing that. And so I think those are things that we really have to
Mhm.
realize the long-term effect of our own fears and how
Mhm.
they're inhibiting
Mhm.
our children's development, regardless of how old they are. I want
Totally.
them, I want my children to communicate, but they also need to know that they can solve these problems and then let you know about it, right? You
Mhm.
can say, oh, mom, I had this problem and
Mhm.
this is how I handled it. And my job then is to say, wow, that was a difficult problem. And wow, you made a
Right.
great decision, right?
Right.
So my job is to reinforce
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but not to provide it. And boy, that's hard for parents because we want to help them,
Yeah.
just like we want to help the toddler
Mhm.
um, figure out how to do the shape sorter. So we show
Mhm.
them instead of letting them discover it and feel
Absolutely.
that level of frustration of not being
Mhm.
able to put those shapes in that shape sorter. We want
Mhm.
to we want to avoid that for them,
Mhm.
which is really, again, inhibiting development. So,
Mhm.
I think there's so much that we could expand on with this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is what we're seeing in classrooms. I mean, my students were No Child Left Behind students.
Yeah. True.
There was no play.
Right.
There
Right.
was, in many cases, no recess, or it was taken away
Yep.
as a punishment.
Totally.
And so, I have to provide them opportunities to play
Mhm.
in the classroom so that they see what that is and how meaningful it is.
Mhm.
And whew, um, we are charged with undoing a lot of damage. And I think this was a great Porch Play Chat to start
Mm.
with,
Yeah.
because just making people aware of how our own interactions with children or students is either reinforcing
Mhm.
their helplessness
Mhm.
or helping them move through it and become
Mhm.
their own person. So,
Mhm.
ooh, Heather, we got to talk more about this.
I'm in. I'm in.
Okay, so stay right there while I close this out.
Sure,
So
sure.
to learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.